Hey everyone, today I want to take a look at Control and its dead zones. To jump straight into it, starting with the movement dead zone, uses about a 22% circular dead zone. So as you can see, nice and circular. There doesn't seem to be any restricted diagonal movement, so you can make very smooth adjustments with all the angles you have available to you. The shaded region represents the run threshold. And of course, while you're running, you can trigger a sprint, and exiting this threshold will cancel the sprint and send you back to walking. So this is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It's well set up, pretty much everything you want. The camera, on the other hand, uses a slightly larger 25% square dead zone. So as you can see, because it's square, it's a little larger in the corners. Square dead zones have the side effect of restricting diagonal movement around the axes, the amount of which is based on the size of the dead zone. So at about a 25% dead zone, this is quite a bit. You can make these large bobbing motions and move perfectly left, even pointing at very obvious angles like this. You can aim up and down. And you don't see diagonal movement occur until you break into these green regions. So this obviously makes aiming clunkier by making it exiting the dead zone irregular based on angle, and having huge portions of the stick only output 4 directions. There are a couple more aiming issues though. The minimum turn rate you can access seems to be too fast. It might look pretty slow, but it could be slower, and this is pretty much independent of what sensitivity you pick. It could be slower than this. You can kind of see, I'm trying to show that it starts more abruptly. You should be able to, make like pixel adjustments with the smallest movements. And this is kind of even more obvious when making smaller diagonal adjustments. You can see just how dramatic this is. Normally with square dead zones, this tiny bit of diagonal movement here, you will see something similar, but it isn't as dramatic, and this really makes it feel like you have 8 directions when making very small diagonal movements, or small movements in general. Lastly, this game uses aim smoothing, and what aim smoothing is that causes your turn rate to build up over time. So this is the sensitivity I'm using right now. So when I push the stick fully, I turn this fast. However, because of aim smoothing, I don't start out turning that fast. It starts turning slower and then builds up over time. So if I made quick flicking motions with the stick, you'll see that very little distance is traveled. And if I make circular movements, you can see that very small circles are being created. At a sensitivity like this, we should see kind of larger circles being created instead of small ones. But they're small because aim smoothing has it build up, and by making quick movements like this, you don't give it time to build up to that sensitivity. Because aim smoothing is used, this makes all your movements feel sluggish, because all your movements are going to start out slower than you expect, and also less predictable, because while smoothing is building up, your turn rate is in flux, so it's hard to predict what speed your cursor is moving at any point in time until it caps. So together with square dead zone, slightly faster starting acceleration, and aim smoothing, this makes camera movement feel much more sluggish and clunky than it should be. And unfortunately, when you compare it with movement, and really any game that uses separate dead zones, separate dead zone types for both camera and movement. It's always frustrating because either movement was set up to be better or the camera was set up to be worse. I mean, there's really no benefit to a square dead zone, aim smoothing, and not having the smallest starting acceleration possible. So that's about it. Unfortunately, the camera isn't great, and unfortunately, aiming as a result suffers. But movement is exactly what you want. So they got half of the controls pretty good. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.